Hello.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, especially to everybody from Team Sir and to all our Express Film Club members. A very warm welcome back again to another edition. Um, those of you who are familiar with the Film Club now know that this is a place that celebrates new ideas. These are ideas that come to us through the medium of cinema. And who better than Shubhra Gupta to decide what we get to watch, we get you to watch. She's the one who carefully curates films that we bring to you every month. This month was a very special one. I hope all of you have seen it. And we'll get around to talking to the team in just about a minute. Shubhra, I'm passing this over to you. Just before that, guys, I really enjoyed the film. Thank you so much for it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pavita. Hi, everybody. This is a formal hello to Rohena, to Vivek, to Tillotama for being here. Thank you for being here. And like I said to all of you yesterday, it is the film club really is one of the it's kind of a unique place. I mean we're saying it ourselves, but I think what we managed to do is to celebrate cinema that really doesn't reach as many people as we would like it to. Because what happens with films like Sir, or with other films that are made with such love and with such care, that they end up getting bookended in theaters at 9 a.m., at 11 p.m., and they claim that they have released it, but actually it's just like a khana puri thing, which I think is very unfair. So in the last 5.5 years, what we've done is we've chosen films that we love, and we've shown it to a live audience in Delhi, and then I usually, I get into Bombay with the films every month, and we talk to the people who've just finished watching the films, and everyone knows that I really like the film. But the idea is for the people who are in the audience to have a conversation with the film, and then to share what they thought was, how they felt about the film. So we've tried to do an e-version of it in the last year since the lockdown, and here we are with Sir, which I told Rohina that I've had my eye on the film and her since the can since it is sort of premiered there, and it's taken us this long to be here with us. So welcome. I'm going to
Thank you.
jump right in, and I'm going to ask you how you thought of this such an unusual subject, and I would imagine so hard to actually um, put words to something so delicate, and so difficult to actually uh, to put into words without taking the delicacy away, taking the nuance away. I mean, how did you think of the idea?
So the idea is, I think it comes from a childhood struggle, really, I would say. It's something I lived with my whole life, just struggle, trying to understand the way we live and coming to terms with the way we live in India. I grew up with Live in Help. Maybe a lot of people here did as well. Um, and I was very close to the person who helped raise me. And then later in life also, I was close to people who worked in my home in this way where you think you're friendly and you can talk about things. But at the same time, I was really aware, even as a child, that there's a very distinct barrier that you cannot cross. And I think when I lived away and I came back, I was even more sort of acutely aware of this and how we live, and that I was part of a system, but I had no idea what to do about it. I had no way of actually making a difference or making a change, because it's so entrenched like this. You can't just show up and one day say like, oh, I'm going to invite this person, to join us at the table. It's not that simple. So for many years I kind of lived with this and I didn't know what to do, and I think I only figured out that I could talk about it through this film when I thought of doing it as a love story, because then I thought I could make the two characters more equal, not get into something preachy, not try to tell people what to think, because I myself really don't know what to think, and how to deal with the situation. And so Sir was in a way a process for me of trying to work through that, and really honestly work through it and try to understand what could really happen. I got these two characters together in this home, and then I was just trying to follow them, you know, in the writing, like step by step. And each time I found myself doing something clever or, you know, screenwriterly or plotsy, I would kind of take two steps back and take it out and try to come back to the truth of how we live and who, you know, the reality of, you know, like you said, how do you put things into words? How can they put things into words? What can really be said between these two? Very little, you know, so the conversations are always incomplete. They're sort of suggestions of conversations because that's as much as they can really do. So a lot is in the moments in between, you know. So a lot of it is just in a glance, in the tiniest gesture that you have to have actors like Tillotama and Vivek pull that off, and then you have to trust your audience completely to be there and to get what's going on without any words, you know.
Hmm. Right. Yes, I was very struck by the fact that, here are these two people who are bound by centuries or like hundreds of years of being in sort of the power structures that they are. I mean, the one person is the be all and the end all of the person who's serving, the servant, the servant in quote unquote, as well as somebody who has the power to pay you for your time, but you live in their home and you are constantly accessible. How do you sort of make
Yes.
that balance? It's a very tricky thing, and I think it's just so amazing as a film that it has all of this. I mean, it goes up against all of that and manages to convince us in such a in in such a convincing way. Yeah.
I mean, I think
So
there's extreme vulnerability, right, in the characters. There's in Ratna's character, she's completely vulnerable. Uh, in the moment, I'm assuming people have seen the film, but in the moment after the kiss, she is so vulnerable because her her life is in his hands. You know, if he starts talking about what happened, it can destroy her. Whereas for him, it wouldn't matter as much. You know, so I just like you said, there's so much dependence and vulnerability.
so when you were casting, or when you were thinking about the people who would play these characters, did you always have Tilotama and Vivek in mind?
Tilotama came to mind quite quickly. Actually, Breeze, who's the producer, and my husband suggested her, and when he did, it was just so obvious. I had loved her work in Kissa, and I could, it's really when you see Tilotama on screen, you can tell the amount of work that's gone into any role she plays, you know. And I think that's something that I really respected, and I want, and I felt would really help me and would really be important to the film, because I think it's really easy to think it's not it's easy, take off your makeup and play this character kind of thing, but it's really not. And I think that that Ratna is an optimistic person, but she's not naive or silly, you know. And it was really important for me that the actor be able to get that complexity, you know. And seeing Tirotama's work, it was very obvious that yes, she would bring that and more to it. So Tirotama was, for me, was a very easy choice. I was in fact very nervous that she would say no, because of Monsoon Wedding, and she would say, like, what do you think, how can you, what is this? So when I sent her the script, I was really terrified, but she loved it, luckily, and came on board very quickly and was very supportive. And to find Vivek was much harder. To cast Ashwin was much harder, because it was just difficult. We had to do auditions, and Tilotama was very kind in that she agreed to audition with a couple of different actors, so that really helped. And when I saw them together, first of all, Vivek had come in, he had prepared and worked, and he was ready for the audition, which I really appreciated. That I was a first time director, and he had taken the trouble to actually put in the work to come and audition, and it showed. And I think when I saw them together and there was this chemistry between them and this energy in the room, it just became very clear that this was my Ashwin.
Okay, so both the actors have been smiling quite deeply for the last couple of minutes, and I think listening to you. So I'm going to bring them in, and I'm going to start with, okay, you can either of you pick it up. Oh, what was your first top of the head response when you got the call from Rohena?
Listen, I'm still at where Rohena said that Gomber had prepared and come for the audition. I mean, I can't imagine which actor wouldn't prepare and come for an audition, because auditions are so scary. And
There were.
Oh wow!
really,
I didn't know this part.
wow,
I
that's
didn't
some
know that.
confidence, no? To come into an audition thinking, I'm not going to prepare, you know.
I think it's because people are stuck in the days of narration still. I don't know if you had that, Rohena, where people were like, I don't want to read it, whether you want to narrate it to me or things like
Vivek, can
that.
you speak up a
Yeah,
little bit? Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, now much better. Yeah.
No, I was just saying that sometimes actors are used to the idea of narrations as well, which I've realized here because recently I've had people pitch a film to me, and instead of me asking when I ask for the script, they say that well, I'll narrate it to you, and that's a completely different experience of kind of going through that process. But anyways, I didn't know that Rohena also had that experience of people just showing up without preparation. So
yeah, and
funny.
narrations, I don't understand how I can just sit and listen to someone narrate their film for the first time without having the privacy of my own thoughts and feeling and space. And also, I mean, the beauty of us of reading is that the words, and you read it and interpret it the way you want it without any suggestion in the way the dialogues are said to you, you know. So if Rohena had read out to me the whole film, I would feel so compelled as, you know, Ratna.
You wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, exactly.
I would not be able to narrate.
It's so disrespectful as well in the process to ask someone who has written it to narrate something when it's like, well, read it.
Read it. I mean,
anyways,
I worked hard for a long time to write something. I think the least you can do is read it.
Yeah.
And I read it. And I was shooting for Death in the Gunj at that time. So I had told her that I would take some time, actually a lot of time, to because I'm not good at multitasking. And then I read it, and like I was telling you that I found it, um, what do you call it, uncomfortable as I started reading the screenplay, because I started feeling concerned for the characters. I was like, oh God, where's this going? And okay, read one more scene. I see. Okay, but where's this going now after this? You know, and um, I think I was suitably uncomfortable, and that was hence an easy yes. Like you say yes, and then you exhale and like, okay, you said yes, but how are we going to do this? Then everything else kind of, you know, starts. But I knew I was uncomfortable. I knew I was feeling nervous for the script, for the characters, for the filmmaker. She's asked me. I've, you know, all that happened after the yes, but it's because the characters did make me uncomfortable. And
so for me, it was slightly different because I was not in a position to be the one to say yes to the process. So I auditioned, and for me, it came at a time where I felt like I was not getting the kind of work I wanted to get. So it was an opportunity to kind of play the male lead of a film, which was huge. And then at the same time to explore a space that I had never really thought about it. Then I knew that Tillotama was a part of it, and Rohena was very clear about it. And so these were things that really attracted me in my mind. So I knew that I wanted to book the job. I wanted to get in the room. Also, the way Rohena approached the process of like, I was allowed to read the entire script. We spoke about it, and we actually met after reading the script, because a lot of time people just don't even, you waste a meeting, which is silly because you should be efficient with your time. Anyways, Rohena was very good with that. And she also had Pushpendra involved in the process, who's someone I knew, even though I didn't know Rohena. And yeah, my whole thing was to try and get in the room, because and then I think the fears that Tillotama had came to me later once I booked the job. I was aware of them, but I also felt that it was one of those things where I really wanted to trust the director and kind of go with it, because when Rohena spoke to me, and she had also had done a documentary before that, which is also about relationships and marriage and kind of the gaze, and there were things. I remember we met in Suzette in Bandra, and we had a very unknown conversation, because we really didn't know each other, and but she was, yeah, it was a good meeting, and it gave me a lot of incentive to prepare and be interested to be back in the room for the callback. And I'm glad that I got selected. And yeah, and then of course the challenges of the script were always there, but then my entry into the process was very different. I was, I felt like by the time I got to the fact of really worrying about it, I had one worrier and the other one who had lived with it for 8 years. So I just would go to them and then they would like, I'd be fine. So I helped, that helped me, I believe.
Yeah, and I remember Tilotama, you were talking about, feeling like it was like a swayamvar.
Yeah, the audition process, yes, it was kind of a unique experience because everything that Gomber said, actors like us don't get an opportunity to helm a film. And we made the most of every part that's come our way. The 2 inches of ivory that Jane Austen talks about. We hold on to every millimeter of those 2 inches and, give the best that we have so that we can seduce directors into giving us parts that are meatier. So when somebody does place that love and trust on you, you kind of, really want to give that back. And I think that felt hugely empowering. What I did not expect was that it came up in a conversation that if it is about how Ashwin and Ratna, so much of it is in the unsaid.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
that who's this actor, and she asked me to suggest some actors I knew. I felt it was too much of a, like, I don't know, I have no idea what would work, who is the right Ashwin, and so to be put in a room with various actors coming in, I do the scene with them, they go out, I take a break, siesta time for a bit, and then another actor comes in, he does the scene. Okay, Rohena and I look at each other. Said, I don't even know whether I should tell my director कि हाँ ये ठीक ही लगा मुझे पता नहीं अब एक सीन किया है पता नहीं आप मुझको मत पूछिएगा ये आपकी फिल्म है आप कास्ट कीजिए क्योंकि ये नहीं होना चाहिए कि यार तिलोत्तमा ने बोला था ये एक्टर उसका दोस्त है उसको ले लो फिर फिल्म में मतलब गड़बड़ हो गई. So I really didn't really want to suggest anything, but when so it did feel like a swayambar. It felt empowering in a very refreshing way to be able to participate in helping the casting of a really important actor in the film. So I had never been roped in that way. And when Gomber came into the room and we auditioned, there were many. I don't know who Rohena is talking about, but I felt that the actors had prepared the others who I tried, But I felt with Gomber when he came in, the one difference, I don't have any objectivity about anything else, but I remember feeling one thing very differently was that his kindness towards Ratna, the way Ashwin, he played his kindness towards Ratna, was neither patronizing in any way or unhinged and irrational either. It was something very matter of fact, as someone who is actually just not class conscious. And I think perhaps because I know Gomber, his upbringing as someone who's lived outside in Singapore and grown up, the idea of equality, of being a class blind, I've seen that in him as a friend. I just didn't realize it would make such a difference for this film. When an actor comes in, so his falling in love with Ratna was not like an actor playing it, a man playing it like, look, I'm so good. I fell in love with my maid. I'm so progressive. It was, I fell in love with this woman. What do I do? There's a difference.
Yeah.
There's a difference between, I don't even know, I know what I'm doing is normal, as opposed to I'm so progressive and radical and, woke that I am, I'm doing this because I'm so woke, as opposed to I'm not. It's like saying this actor's so good, yeah, she always comes on time. It's like making a virtue of something that's just normal.
Yeah.
Should be normal. So I think that was a difference
Yeah.
when Gomber came.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that to me was very, very significant. The way I think Vivek's character, I mean, Vivek made that character not say yay for me, like look at me, I'm this guy that is
Pavam
secure.
guy, you know, I just love
Yeah,
to love.
and I like the way the two characters start at the edges of say even a room, and they sort of start to gravitate towards each other, because usually someone who serves and someone who sits and expects to be served is always, there is never any, you can't be standing in the same space either too close or it's always so transactional. So when it got to the point where they start to be a little bit okay about each other, the film decides that it needs an out and leaves us wondering. And I just love the way the word, his name feels in Ratna's mouth. The very that 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 moment when she says his name.
That
It's
that I think a lot of credit to that goes to the director here and the writer in this case, and um, how those moments were created and have made it into a film in that way for us to feel that way. I think those
yeah,
things, were maybe harder for me to see on set, because it was actually, they say, like, you're supposed to act when you're not acting really, you're just supposed to be present. So a lot of it was such, routine, mundane activities, but there was so much else happening in the undercurrent. But to be given that much space, then to have again someone's gaze like that, who's going with kind of a rhythm of these people coming together and breathing together and trying to look at each other. A lot of that comes across in our performances. It goes back to what Rohena wanted, and wanted arrived at in her process with us, directing us.
right,
I would say.
right,
Yeah, we were very
right.
aware of the fact that the performances, it's really nice to hear such nice things about both of us in various newsprint, and but it's really it's important for us to put it out there that it was a very carefully constructed
Yeah.
experience. And so the actors were really, if nothing was like by chance, or it was a performance, the actors gave some incredible take that just changed the film. Even none of that. It was not, it was, everything was very carefully constructed by her, and it was very mathematical, in that sense, because you had to really know what precedes it, and if you had already shot for what
Yeah,
is after it, you need to
yeah,
know what the temperature and the breath is really like, because if this has happened in the next scene, we can't
right.
be here right now. So it was very calculated. It was all in the way the script was written, and it was not something we came up with at all. you know just
Yeah,
that should be clear.
Yeah, no, but it's also the environment. Like Roena created that environment because she wanted these things, I would say, and then we arrived at it. But like during the process, there were like I mean, I didn't know, the kind of, I guess in a way, terror, restraint that you have in the performances in the final outcome of the film. Because you see, when we're shooting, we're also like, first of all, we are not the kind of actors who also go look at the frame and stuff, right?
right.
We're really
Yeah,
trusting
yeah,
the director. Then
yeah.
there's this whole process of post, there's music is added and there's so much going on in the film. And then the editing process, which is a very lonely process for the director, to get
Right,
there, because you can, and this has been done, and we'll talk about like how Rena made this film. It is not easy to make films in this country, even though we are whatever the biggest
so
film
true.
producing nation, but it's not easy. It's really hard to get your chance and to get it out there. So there were so many stages that we were not aware of. I was there in the callback, the audition, and I shot it, and then I walked away, and and it's really nice, and I feel very fortunate to have a director like that, especially a writer director, and that's the great asset, because she's really written it and lived it. So even if you are uncertain, there's a lot of certainty that comes from her, and because
Right,
time she's spent with it, and you have to trust that. And then it was great that we were able to, like me and Roena and the three of us, we were all able to find that space to play and trust and explore and understand that she is the captain, of the ship.
right.
But yet we were allowed to feel like, we had as much as a voice, so that whole, it's rare. It doesn't happen all the time. And I just just want to acknowledge that like a lot of the accolade goes through the person who's been carrying it for that long and trying to piece it together.
Okay, I'm going
Thank
to
you.
open the conversation to our viewers, to the people who joined in. Is Shanali here?
I see it. Shanali TC.
Shanali, are you here?
She's muted herself.
I think somebody will ask her to, yeah?
Yes.
I saw someone with a mask on, before they switched off their videos, one of the viewers. So thank
Had
you
a
for
mask
wearing
on?
a
Okay,
mask.
no, I'm waiting. I mean, because she was the first to ask the question, she should. Is Shanali
Shanali,
here?
Yes,
Please,
yes.
go ahead, ask your question.
My question, just a second.
Can we see you? Yeah, hi.
Yeah. I love the film, sir. Hi. I watched it for like 11, 12 times. Sort of created a revolution around it on my Insta story so that everybody gets to know about this film. So it's one of
11,
the
12
most
times. Okay. All
I
right.
have watched in the recent past. So my question is, I have two questions. First is, there's a scene where Ratna comes in to serve dinner and Ashwin is watching a film and there's this lip lock happening. So what was the idea behind the scene? Was it sort of foreshadowing what was about to happen with them? Or was it sort of Ratna's introduction to how Ashwin would want to make love? So what was your interpretation behind that scene?
Rohena,
Do you want to
you
ask
have
the
to
second
answer
question
the
or should I
question.
answer?
You
No, I
have
was
to ask
wondering
the
if you wanted to
question.
throw out both
So she's
questions.
seen the film 12 times, so I'm not answering the question. I haven't seen it 12 times. I think you know of the film better than us.
I think, Rohina, you need to pick up this one.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just wondering whether she was going to, whether she was wanted to ask both questions at once.
Yeah, I can. But then the second question is longer, so I think
Okay.
you go with
I
the
think,
first
no,
one.
I think just let's stay with the first
Okay.
one because we have many more people, yeah?
Okay.
Oh no,
So,
but then the second question is actually the one that I really, really want to ask. That is the
Okay.
phone calls. The phone calls play a very important role in the narrative of the film. Ratna gets to know that Ashwin is here back from the wedding through a phone call. And then again, it is a phone call that makes Ashwin believe that she has her back. Then again, it is a phone call when the moment builds between them when she gives the shirt to him on his birthday, but then it gets diluted because of a phone call. And then again, when they have their moment, it is a phone call that brings Ratna back to her reality. Again, the last scene where she says Ashwin, that is also a phone call. So was it kind of deliberate or was that a deliberate choice or it was just happened like that?
no, it's just storytelling. Sorry, it was not, it's not about phones in any particular way. It's not something I'm trying to say in particular about phones, even though, I think it's just, for me really, all these moments, a lot of this just is life, just the way that life is and the way that things are interrupted by phones. It's just, everything in the film was me trying to be true to life. So yeah, maybe that's it. Nothing more intellectual or clever than that.
Okay. Do you want to go for the first one when she talks about
Sure.
the lip lock on,
Again, that's something that actually that came from life, and I'm happy she asked the question actually, because it's quite funny. My husband and I would joke that if we were watching a film and we had a nanny for our child at the time, if we were watching a film and we could be watching Shrek, but like if there is a kiss in the film, that is the moment that the person who worked in the house would walk into the room, So it really came from experience that you always get interrupted, which is also part of the reason why I really like watching films in the cinema, because it's just such a different experience and you don't get interrupted. But yeah, just have to plug that. But it for me comes from life, but in terms of the moment between them, it is sort of foreshadowing, but it's also just a moment between them, right? It brings out that little awkwardness. She sort of smiles, she knows he's embarrassed. There's a shared discomfort in this moment. They're both kind of aware, they're acutely aware of each other, but nobody can say anything. So the kiss is a way of actually talking about what they're feeling to us, the audience, without anybody really saying anything, because we can't say anything, So yeah.
right.
But it's
Right.
not about her being introduced to her own sexuality or her, none of that. I mean,
Okay, we're going to go to the next one.
But
Satya,
about
are you
the
here?
phone call, Shubhra, I do want to say that to Shanali that whenever there was a phone
Shinali.
call, it was the act. I mean, I was talking to Gomber. I was not pretending to talk to an actor.
Okay.
And even though Gomber was some other part of the world shooting for something else, we were like, it was really important because when you don't see somebody and you only hear them, you assume a lot more about things. So it was really important that the actor was on the other side, and you don't usually get all this.
Yeah, no, they had told me that this might be the day they might shoot it. So around that time, if you are free, let's try and make it work. And it was very important, I think, for all of us that it happened that way.
I mean, I think this is I actually wanted to say that earlier when when we were talking about the end of the film, and I didn't get a chance. But I think the reason, for me, the way that that moment that Tillotama brings to life at the very end of the film is the way it is, because also I think they both of them came to it with so much honesty, and I think the script is written like that to really try to be there. And I think the fact that they were supportive of each other and present for each other. So Vivek was crouched down in the corner, kind of giving the cue to Tillotama at that point when she was on the phone. So his presence was real for her. And I think that time that it takes for her to say his name is how she felt it, and that's why I think you really feel it, because they came to it with that same sort of sincerity, and I think that's why it feels the way it does, because that's
Yeah. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Is Satya, are you here? Satya, are you here?
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, it's just like, it's a wonderful movie. It's a very nice attempt. I just very few. It's not related to actually those scripts and all. Just surprised to see as an Indian maid, Indian servant having so many dresses. She wore so many sarees. So that I felt like as a what we see in India usually, the maids have one or two or three. Maybe I felt.
Can I answer this?
And the other thing is she's so much into understanding English better, but only that brave word she couldn't able to understand. Maybe the script she wanted to include, or maybe anyhow, it's wonderful to see such experimental movies.
Okay, Rohena, you're gonna go.
Yeah, I want to respond to the costumes, because the costumes are actually really cheaply purchased, and there's a lot of mix and match. So she's quite clever in the way she mixes and matches her saris and blouses to make you feel she has more saris than she does. By the end of the film, also there's a lot of stuff where she borrows a sari. You'll see that one of the saris she wears is actually a sari that you see Choti wearing, because it's actually Choti's sari that she borrows to go for her interview. And because she wants to look nice and she wants a new sari, and her sister just got married, so she has new saris. And a lot of this was discussed, and the costume designers by the end of the film were begging me to to please include more saris. And so it looks like she has a lot more than she does, and they were really bought in a budget from the same market where she would actually buy it. And the saris actually cost between 300 and 600 rupees. So the whole thing was really done within the kind of budget that we felt was realistic for her, but also we wanted a slightly heightened sense of reality, so we took some liberties with like some changes that she did, that we did, which could have maybe cost a couple of hundred rupees more than Ratna would afford. But there really was attention to that. So I'm sorry that you feel that it felt wrong, but we were really paying attention.
Okay.
But
We're going to jump
I
right.
just want to say that there's a wonderful woman in my life who's taken care of us, and she definitely has more saris than I do. And her jewelry is beautiful. She really dresses well, and she has great saris. Her blouses, Some are the puffed, very vintage style. She has the normal ones. She wears synthetics on weekdays, and on weekends she wears cotton because the cotton ones need starch. So, you know, there's all kinds of people with less saris and people with more saris, even though less and more is relative. Yeah.
Less and more is relative, yeah.
It is. I mean, but
Oh, that's
Yeah, it's deep.
nicely said. I think that really makes, I mean, very well said. Yeah. So is Bhaumik Haria here? I'm sorry, I'm going to jump into, I have like a bunch of questions coming
That's
at
great.
us.
You're doing awesome, Shubhra.
Bhaumik Haria, are you here?
Yes.
Bhaumik? Yeah, go ahead. Please ask your question.
Okay. I have some few observations made
my-
because my questions were asked by Shubhra Gupta already in the start of this session itself. So I quite like the patterns that you have shown in the saris, in the interiors and everything. You know, the set of patterns, flower designs, and everything that's been followed up throughout the film. Actually, even the huge balcony gives a very contrast to the emptiness of their own lives, both of their lives. In the city of Bombay, when they're staying alone, it shows a beautiful contrast over there. My favorite scene actually is where she goes for the first class of a tailoring and they learn measurements over there. Immediately she comes home and she sees sir also doing the same thing. He's measuring and drafting certain things. It's beautifully conveyed. These little details add so much of value to the whole weaving process actually. Only two things. I wanted to know why didn't Ashwin pack the sewing machine when she left? You know, he could have packed that and given it to her, the sewing machine which he had got for her actually. And second thing is, I can see a kind of similarity with the lunchbox actually, you know, two different souls staying separate and also an open end. This is an open end. So does Rohena have something in mind? What happens after she calls him Ashwin? The movie ends there. So is there, because I've seen a lot of communities and people discussing there can be scope for part two also for this film. So I want to know, does she have any story in mind of where are these characters heading towards further?
Um, I don't know what happens next. I would like to believe that they find a way to find each other. You know, that they find a way uh, to be together. But I think there's a question around what a happy ending is, right? Or what is an open ending? Like for me, it is a happy ending. She freed herself. Like she's freed herself from these shackles by using his name. Like that is a huge step that she just took by calling herself his equal. Um, that's what the film is about on many levels. Of course, the love story is important, and I am a diehard romantic, and I want them to be together. But I think it has to live in each person's mind, you know. And if you think they'll be together, maybe they will. And if you don't, then I would like to know why you think they can't be together. You know, I think that's what the film is really about. And I am not planning a sequel. No.
shit.
Okay. That was nice and eloquent, I have to say. Ratul Das, are you here? Ratul, are you here?
Ratul, can you please unmute yourself? Ma'am, maybe we can come back.
I'm sorry, he's not here?
Yeah, we can probably come back.
Okay, sure. All right, so let's go to Tithi Rohila. Are you here? Tithi?
Hello.
Hi, I can hear you.
Yes, I loved that movie first of all, and second of all, my question is: living in Mumbai, Ratna was showed in highly confined spaces throughout the film, and this changes by the end. Was it intentional? Like there was always either she was in confined spaces or also in imaginary boundaries. For example, there was a difference between Ashwin and Ratna's character when she was one of them was standing in the balcony and one of them in the room. So that idea of spaces, Ratna was always in Taylor's shop and in her also room. So yes, so that play visual language of spaces, was that intentional?
Yeah, it was very intentional. It's really, I mean, the film, the uh, at its very genesis, the film was about spaces. Like I think my first working title was Inner Spaces, and it's about the two spaces within this home, that there are two worlds within one apartment, and two such contrasting worlds that rub up against each other, and what that really means. So definitely it is about spaces and spaces evolving. And for me, it was also really important. That's why it was really important to to shoot her village in a really beautiful location, because if we could have done it much easier by shooting in Panvel instead of going to Tapola near Mahabaleshwar. But I was really keen that she have this openness and a larger space, and the nature, which is part of who she is, and that is part of her strength. And she's not from some sort of grubby little hovel, which is how we sometimes imagine. One tends to talk down to this sort of a character and be like, you don't, in your imagination, you don't imagine a home being beautiful. So even though she's in confined spaces within Mumbai, I think there is an openness in her, and there is the hopefulness and the optimism is all sort of is present for me in where she comes from. In the fact that her village is really beautiful, and that's where she's grown up, and that's who she is. That's incorporated into her character. I don't know if that answers the question clearly, but that was part of it. Yeah.
I think Ratul is back. Ratul, are you? Yeah, go ahead, ask your question.
Oh, you're
Not
muted.
hearing-
You're muted.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. Am I audible now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so sorry. I was in the middle of something. This got called and I missed my call the first time. So first of all, a lot of heartfelt gratitude, because I was talking to my partner last night, and the first thing we shared was like how in a long time a film really emotionally connected to us. We got so engaged, and if I'm allowed to be honest right here, it didn't take even half the movie for me to get all teary-eyed, and I don't usually get it's not a strength that I consider of myself, but I don't usually get teary-eyed, and it was surprising. And that is the first thing that we shared yesterday. So thanks for making this movie, everyone who was involved in at whatever level. Thank you so much. And Tillotama ma'am, always a fan. It was lovely seeing you there.
Thank you so much. You're a professor where? What do you teach?
I am actually a professor of law, assistant professor of law in Kolkata.
Wow.
Special love for movies. Don't get much time, but I made time because I had to catch the date today with you guys. So my question goes out to all of you. I had a couple of questions. You could call these observations as well. First of all, I wanted to know how far you thought that gender also played another layer into the class divide between Ashwin and Ratna. Because I'm saying this because intuitively we would think that it would be less of a barrier had Ratna been a subordinate like a clerk or secretary at Ashwin's office. But the profession of a domestic employee is a very gendered one. It's its own class. Right. So where delegated menial tasks of the nature of the nature that members of an upward mobile middle class family would find undesirable and probably even unclean. So that is something struck in my mind. And the second thing is about the romanticism that is always associated with Mumbai. Like it seemed to be such an appropriate place for the story, especially as it became very evident through the eyes of Choti. It resonates so perfectly as that one Indian city where dreams and fantasies have perennially come to meet. In that way, it also felt to me that as if the storytellers were weaving a hypothetical out of those fantasies and throwing a question to my liberal conscience, especially as a man watching it. So yeah, I'm curious to know why the maker chose to ground the story in Mumbai and no place else. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I guess I have to answer. I was thinking the next question I'm going to pass it on to Tillotama Vivek, but why Mumbai? I have to answer. I think it's true. For me personally, Mumbai has really been a place where I got to meet all sorts of people. Working as a struggling writer, you actually meet lots of kinds of people that I would not otherwise have met. Living my sort of privileged life. So I feel that, and it is really a city of dreams, and it is a really harsh city as well. And I think it teaches you a lot, and you can look around and you can learn from the people around you. I think every time you look around in Mumbai, and that's really what those terrace scenes also are about. Like you look out and you see, oh my God, it's such a living, breathing, throbbing city with so many struggles that it puts your own in perspective, but it also gives you hope to go forward and to find your way. And it can also make you really hard, and it can also be really harsh. So I think it's a very complex, demanding, challenging, exciting city. And yeah, so that's why Mumbai. And what was the other one? Oh, it was about domestic workers being their own class. Yes, I completely. I think it has its roots in the sort of in our casteist history, right? I mean, we are the way that we see people as fundamentally not equal, and upward mobility seems possible. Maybe if you're a white collar worker or you're a secretary, maybe you can sort of marry up. But I think a domestic worker is definitely, sadly, I think still perceived as a different class, and yes, perhaps even unclean. So it was definitely a distinct choice. Yeah.
Okay. Should we
anything you guys want to add?
Anything? Yeah, I was just going to. Anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I love stories that are being told in Bombay also, because I'm in Mumbai. I've also moved here. I'm an immigrant here. I like the idea of the city being a backdrop of a city of dreams. I really believe in that, So, and kind of in terms of practical terms, in terms of coming to make a living, and it might be an old way of thinking. It might not be PC right now, but yeah, to come to Bombay and to make a living and to live the life that you want to live, that's how I feel when I'm in India. I don't know where else I feel like that. Sorry to say. But yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, also, I mean, your question made me think, I mean, which we thought, if our places were swapped and if it was a man, how this film would feel like. So is it gendered? I mean, it's really hard to not see anything which is not gendered, given that that's just a different battle we are battling, while class is something that we don't talk about. So in terms of gender inequity, I think, the number of times I've been called to women-centric film panels and being asked the same questions about what is the change, how much more do you feel there's a change? It's so glacial. But at least we've been talking about it, about the inequity. I think there's no confusion that it's unequal. But I think when it comes to class, there's no acknowledgement of it, because no one is spared. It would make all of us so guilty. So for us to acknowledge a kind of a common collective, fess up, stand up and say, yeah, I have subscribed to an ideology that I only intellectually critique, and that too not openly. In my head, I'm aware that, people should be equal, but actually I'm quite blind. So I feel like the gender inequity, it's there, it's so, at least we talk about it, but this we don't even talk about. It's like some kind of, what do you call it? Like a blackout, like, choose to not,
blind spot.
a blind spot. Yes, a blind spot. It's something that we know exists, but we choose not to address it because it would just be too messy then.
Yeah, gender, class, caste. Why go there? Because how uncomfortable it would make all of us, sitting in our little cocoons, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about caste, it's we can still externalize it as something that some few people created these structures which are extremely archaic, regressive, and unfair. But when it comes to class, we've all built it together. There's really so I think the guilt is far more, and hence we don't talk about it.
Yeah. Deepti Gupta, I shall jump to the next question. Deepti Gupta, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. I actually wanted to ask, I programmed this film for the Montreal Film Festival, and it was so beautifully received. I think I reached out to Tillotama at that time, and I really thank you for making this incredible film. Given whatever is happening in India right now with the migrant workers also, who had to flee all the main cities and go back to their towns, I want to ask is that, has this film been translated into other languages? Given that this is a story for so many migrant workers to see, engage, and understand their position also. Because, I mean, I think they know that we all have made this aware in so many multiple ways. But I think it is also such an empowering film for people in that capacity. And I would love to know if that has been translated and been circulated widely, just beyond just the Netflix or those, hubs only. Thank you.
First of all, thank you for programming it for Montreal. I would love for the film to be translated or to be dubbed or to travel to parts of India that it may not that it may not reach with Netflix, but it's extremely challenging. It's really challenging for me. Even to get this far has been really quite a task. So I would love it. I would just love to have the rights available, like to for regional television or whatever. But it's challenging because I've been trying to talk to television channels, and again I am told, yeah, it's done well on Netflix, but you don't have a star. So which I disagree with. I have my stars, but yeah, it's extremely complicated to get. It's not just about translation or dubbing or language. It's about actually getting access and getting the support you need to get that far. To get that to that last mile. It's a challenge. I mean, I hope it'll evolve and change, and but right now it's challenging.
Okay. Nandini, are you here?
I think we can move on to the next one.
All right. Vidyanand Jha, are you here?
Hi, Vidya. Just saying hi. No, just.
Yeah, so hi. You saw, I don't quite remember your name yet. It will take me some more movies. So, good to see you. And I went to the movie primarily because of Miss Shome, So this whole talk of stars not being there, she's my star and I follow her movies. That is how I ended up watching the movie. And I'm happy that I watched it because I think I will look out for the next movies of the director and even the male lead, so to say. Having said that, I was very kind of, in my mind, very conflicted about the movie. And the reasons are as follows. Okay. That it's a very cliched characters, very cliched. So take, for example, this American chap who's confused in India, does not know how to, deal with it. And it's just a matter of chance that I watched White Tiger. I had read the book long back, but I watched the movie just now. So you have a similar character there who actually can't negotiate this and ultimately gets killed by the hero of the movie. So this whether we remain kind of, equal like our US education teaches us, or we behave in all the kind of hierarchies which we are placed in India. So that was one part. The second part, unfortunately, and I'm sorry to say this, it kept on reminding me of Shiny Ahuja's case. And remember, it's a very kind of, very everyday cliched thing about housemaids getting exploited by the, whatever, people in the house. Okay, it's just a very old story. Having said that, in fact, what Ratul was saying, I cried in the movie a few times. So the movie takes these very cliched, everyday characters and really kind of, pulls it off. So I've been, that's why trying to think through. And I would be, in fact, very interested to know from you, how did this happen? Because clearly something very extraordinary happens at the end of the movie. With, something which could have, really, to begin with, there is no case for it to happen. So that is what it was. Thank you.
This is great. Yeah, I think it's to you, Rohena, this one.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, the actor's name is Vivek Gomber, who plays Ashwin. And so you can remember for next time. I don't know what you really mean by see, for the cliches that exist in your mind, or the Shiny Ahuja case. I mean, these things don't exist for me in my head. It's not coming from, this is not my context. This is not how I approach the film. I'm not thinking of Shiny and saying it shouldn't be like, like that. It's I think what is in your head and heart is what you work with. And for me, I think this was a genuine struggle of trying to understand my own culpability, the roles that, how we are all part of a system, and can we really change it, and where is it actually going? So for me, it's not about, and I think, I had to be careful, like, to dodge the cliche if I got lazy in the writing. There are times when you think you're clever and you write something that you think is plotsy, or surprising or cool, and then I had to go in and take it out. And I think that's maybe what helps to stay clear and to stay honest and to get away from anything that could be familiar. But the goal was to just be as real as possible, and this is my way of being real. This is my way of seeing, as opposed to someone else's. So yeah, I don't know if that answers it, because I'm not sure I understood it actually.
I think so. It is a hard, very, very hard to pull off this balance between somebody, the exploitative aspect of that relationship, and to keep it no, so I'm just trying to think of the right words. It's, that this is a position, the person in power, and this is a person who is expected to serve, and the thing between them, I thought it was so beautifully, so delicately, and so sensitively done. It was, every moment was like a pitfall. I mean, you could have just fallen into something, and so hard to pull yourself out of it without either trying to be obvious or understating something. So I just felt that none of these things computed as far as I was concerned either. So yeah. So we will go to the next one. This Sanskriti Tiwari, are you here?
Shubhra, I just want to say that, this is important for me, because that it could be exploitative, that this relationship could be exploitative, is something that I felt that as an actor, it's my responsibility to play the characters in a way that, because that's not Rohena's world, that's not Rohena's vision for this film. That exploitation exists across class is not a cliche, it's a reality. It's given that this film, in our cultural imagination, such relationships are usually in the world of pornography. So I mean, it's not a cliche. It's really, it's what it is. So if someone is making a film about, a relationship, I think there's also something else happening here, which is, which takes it away from being exploitative, is actually acknowledging Ratna's desire. And I think if we are going to be afraid of, it's not like she's forced into that kiss. And I think acknowledging female desires anyway, so, we've begun to do it in ways which are, and then the whole censorship issue comes into it. So since we were spared because we are a wholesome watch, I just want to say that while we are a very wholesome watch, and I'm very glad for that, and a family watch, and no, I'm not being tongue-in-cheek at all, because actually there are many families, there are many people, generational conversations that I've heard, everyone from a certain age group would say something like, we could see it with our family. It was uncomfortable, but we could see it with our family. And since I'm just saying that I think what I'm really struggling to say, because it's important
you
for
were
me.
aware of the exploitative part or aspect of it.
Very much so. I think it was a tightrope that we were constantly walking, to not let our gaze, our bodies play the exploitation. And that in a way was possible because I was allowed as Ratna to express her desire. I was not a victim. I'm very aware of the class dynamic at play, but there's a sense of agency. And I think if we are going to be so afraid, or we are anyway so afraid of female desire, and then female desire across class may make us very uncomfortable. We may want to say that this could never really happen. And it really doesn't matter. This is the film that Rohena has made. And just as an actor playing it, it felt good.
I just want to
Whether it's a cliche or not, whether it happens in reality or not, reality I'm already living. This is a film, and a film which kind of celebrates Ratna with her optimism and all, but also her desire, and without it being something which is exploitative.
Sorry, no. This made me think about a couple of questions ago when we were talking about it, about it being a sequel and all, and Rohena answered that, the fact that she said his name and then she moves on, whether Ashwin's in her life or not is not the point now. The point is that she started to recognize herself in a different way. She's taken a sense of ownership. That like it means so many more things. And usually because the film has received a lot of love, and I'm a sucker for love stories too, and you want them to see it together. But at the end of it, it'll be great if Ratna goes to live on a life of just more ownership, I would say, and if that's what we want to achieve, then of course you would hopefully be careful about not exploiting or using these relationships in an exploitative manner. But yeah, I just thought about the ending and that comment.
Yeah, and we were very aware as actors of the politics and the social system in which we live, where it's a shiny Ahuja kind of film. It's not, because that's and we don't even know what is shiny Ahuja, because it's a case sub judice. I really don't want to comment, and it's really unfair to drag a person like that into a conversation here. But yeah, our contexts
you were talking about that, I had moved on. I was talking about the other fact, that Ratna, by the end of the film, the idea that you say my name, or Ashwin's name is
agency.
Yeah, exactly. In all of that, like that's what it should be about. So even if there is a sequel, who knows who she'll be in love with, or where she will be, or how far along which career she would go. Maybe she does fashion design and goes, no, actually, there's something else I want to do. These kind of choices in life that I feel like.
And like the Shakespearean cliche of what's in a name? Well, a lot in our country. I mean, come on. I mean, this is a celebrated cliche, right? Our surnames and what's in a name? Come on. I mean, your life could be on the line.
That is so true. I mean, the whole we just, it's Saab, Mem Saab, or at most, if we are very liberal, is Didi and Bhaiya. But you're
my brother. No, I don't treat my brother like this.
But by being able to say that name, and for her to get that feedback into her own ear and taste it in her mouth, I thought that was, anyway, I've already said that before. So we will go now to Sanskriti Tiwari. Are you here?
Yes, it was great to hear you, and it was great to watch the film, which is well threaded. So my question was simple nuances as Ratna dancing during the Ganpati progression gave film a new direction. So how was it to direct the scene where Ratna dances? What all nuances went into the behind the scene process of it?
Hours and hours of choreography. My goodness.
This was Tillotama doing her own thing, really. And she was like, I don't know. And she was kind of, I don't know, I can't dance, I can't do this. And then her and, Gitanjali got going, and it was, that was it. And it was shot in a very fluid way. Dominique Collin, the DOP, just let them dance and followed them around. No, Tillotama?
Yeah.
This was Tillotama entirely without a choreographer.
It was actually Gitu. Gitu is extremely nimble. She comes from years of theatre practice. She does hours of warm up before getting on stage, and she has very strong knees, and and she's just light. So she was there. She was dancing. She was trying to call me in. My character is supposed to be, no, I really don't want to dance because I really don't want to dance. But she seduces Ratna into just letting her guard down, and Gitanjali seduced me to dance like that with abandon. So yeah, that's how it happened.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to jump to the next one. Nirbhay Bhogal, are you here?
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
So yeah, this is not really a question for the actors. It's more of a question for the director, since the art department or someone is not here. It is about the wallpaper leading into the kitchen and into the dining lounging areas.
Mm-hmm.
So when they enter the apartment, every time, if they keep going ahead and then turn left, they'll go towards the bedrooms and the kitchen. And if they go straight instead of turning left, they'll go into the dining and lounging areas. So my question is about the pattern printed on the wallpaper of that wall. It looked like woolen or cotton yarn for knitting. So was that like thought of by the art department? Because it almost attains a predestinate significance in terms of Ratna's professional aspiration, fashion designer, and Ashwin's gift to her, sewing machine. So I was wondering whether...
That's a really beautiful interpretation, but that was... I think the colors and the shade and all of that was, Parul Sond, who's the production designer. And there's also a blog about the art, the production design of the film. If you're interested, I can somehow, I don't know how to get that to you, but she was very aware of a lot of things, and it's sort of shaded wallpaper. And actually, the corridor that you're describing, we elongated the corridor because it's really the space between them, which at times is perceived as longer or shorter depending on where you are in the film. It's really the corridor that connects them and separates them. So it's a really crucial part of the film, and we spent a lot of time going in and out of those spaces. But no, I mean, the fact that it resembles yarn or has that, it was really not something that we had thought of. But now I'll say we did.
Yeah.
The next time.
An observation though. That's so cool. It's very cool.
Okay. Vishrut Agarwal, are you here?
Yes, I'm there.
Go ahead.
Yeah, firstly, I would like to make a few comments that, the movie I saw it, I haven't seen it before today, afternoon only I saw it. And it's a very different type of movie, which, for a person like me, the type of movies I like, this movie did not, I think it's a one-time watch for me. I cannot watch it again and again. But I enjoyed the movie overall, and people generally people who belong to an upper class, and there are people who work for them. So they are always. I think one should always be kind to a person who works for you, but you should also maintain a distance. You should not get too close to that person. So and that's what generally people do. They maintain distance, but they are kind to those people. The nice people, the people who understand this. point of view. So I would like to ask the director that how did this thought, come into your mind that a person who's working, who belongs to a much lower class than yours, is working for you, and how did you imagine that a person who belongs to an upper class would start relating with a person who belongs to a much lower class, so in such a way that he falls in love with her.
I think I answered the one part of the question earlier, like when Shubhra asked me about where the film came from, so I won't repeat that. But I think for me, it was really important, and it's sort of also subversive to actually push it to its limit, right? You say, oh, you should be kind. There should be a distance, but you should be kind. I mean, I don't know what any of that really means, right? Of why is this person not equal? And for me, a love story is interesting because then it really pushes the question as to what is equal, unless you fundamentally believe that people are not equal, and so therefore you cannot fall in love with somebody who's different from you, which is the way a lot of people in our country do think. But I don't believe that personally. So if you come into the film, or you come into your life or your relationship with the assumption that people are fundamentally equal, you have different opportunities and you may have different backgrounds, but on a fundamental level, if people are equal, then to test that idea of what equality is, I think a love story really puts you to the test, right? Because so many times you can say, oh yeah, it's fine if you're friends with X or Y or Z, but don't marry them, right? But this is really a test of what are your limits, and how far will you go, and what does it mean to be equal? And I'm sorry, but I don't buy into the whole be kind but keep your distance. I mean, fundamentally, I think that's not what this film is about. That's not what it's questioning.
Right. Do either of you have anything to add to this, or should I just go to the next one?
Next.
No? Okay. Rajat Davar, are you here?
Rajat, can you unmute yourself?
I hope it's a question for the actors.
This is really enjoyable.
Yeah.
We can move on to the next.
Yes, it is. I can tell you it is, but where is Rajat? He needs to ask it himself.
Next
one. Ma'am, why don't you ask it? I think he's...
Okay, so Rajat has a question for Vivek. Vivek is very difficult to find on any of the social media platforms. How does one compliment him if we like his work?
Thank you. This is good enough. This is a great one. Thank you, Rajat. I really appreciate it.
I wish we could see you so that you could,
Yes, yeah, I wish I could see you, Rajat, so I could really say thank you.
You have, so maybe bandwidth issues, but...
his phone number is...
I think Rajat is...
What is going on?
Can I ask the question without switching on my video?
Yeah, sure, go right ahead.
No, I'm in a very bad castaway look because of the pandemic and all that, so I'm not really...
Oh, you're not showing your face because of the pandemic.
Yeah, no, man, I look really unkempt. No, so I just wanted to say that I'll definitely, unlike the gentleman who forgot your name, I definitely remember your name. And I went to IMDb to actually check what all other work that you have been doing, and also looking forward to whatever you do next. And similarly for Rohena and Tillotama, of course. So, because when I saw the film, I just instantly, I connected with it so much that I wanted to, instantly compliment everybody who was involved with the making of the film. And Tillotama and Rohena and Gitanjali, everybody else I could find on the social media and, just compliment. But you were like nowhere, man. Like, so that was that.
Yeah. No, but thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I'm sorry, I'm not on it. I'm not very good with social media.
No, fair enough. It's a personal choice, man. I mean,
Yeah, but I hashtag my name to check if somebody said thank you, and then I just internalize the thank you. And but it's very kind, man. You put me in a spot. That was very sweet of you. I don't know what else to say. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anushka Banerjee, are you here?
Yeah, hi. Oh my God, I wasn't expecting to be chosen for the question. First of all, I'm sorry, just I'm kind of overwhelmed because I love the film. I remember when I first watched it. I'm sorry?
Is this movie poster behind you on your wall?
Oh yeah, that's an OK Kanmani poster. That's a BoJack Horseman poster. That's a Ranbir Kapoor poster.
Right. Very cool.
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to say I really love the film. When I first watched it, I was tweeting, Instagramming everywhere. I was going insane, especially the scene where Ratna and Ashwin kiss, because I put it on my story and I was just like, oh my God, they're about to kiss and all of that. And I agree with Rajat because after watching the film, I developed the biggest crush on Vivek, and I was heartbroken to find out he was not on social media anywhere. So getting to see you live and just telling you how much I love the film is for my fangirl heart. Like my heart is it's beating very fast right now. So I'll get to the question. I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
I'm so glad we can do this instead of just a message that I would have read or something. Isn't this nice?
So I'll get to the questions, otherwise I'm gonna keep going on and on.
What's JRF? What does JRF mean? What does JRF mean? It says your name.
Yeah, it's like my so I'm a junior research fellow. I work at NIMHANS, which is a center for research center for mental health and neuroscience. So I work as a research fellow here.
That's so awesome. Oh, okay, thank you for sharing that.
So I have two questions. One is something that I'd read as an observation on someone had made on Instagram. So was Ratna gifting Ashwin a floral shirt a deliberate choice because of all the floral saris that she wears? So like subtly showing how their lives are kind of intermingling and mixing together. Was that a deliberate choice? And you look really cute in that shirt. I have to turn my fan on because I'm not touching.
Okay.
Oh, that's lovely. No, it wasn't. Again, it was not. We were really looking for something creative that she would do, not something outrageous and silly, but something that she would do that would push. Because his clothes are very staid and very boring, and she has much more fun with her clothes. And so she wants to put something of herself into it, but without being silly. Like I didn't want something outrageous, but something that is noticeable. That's a step away from his style, that pushes him a little bit out of his comfort zone, but still something that a color or in some way something that he might actually wear. So it's a bit risky, but not too much. And so the costume designers Chetna and Kim came up with several options, and then this is the one that we felt was closest to what it just really clicked, and it seemed like it felt like it belonged to her, that she would like this fabric when she's shopping. She would note, and it's a two-sided fabric actually. So one side is printed and the other side is not. So when you roll it up, it looks different, right? So and then we had people on the set really liked it. So finally, the DOP took the shirt after the shoot because he really liked the shirt.
And my second question was, this was something I noticed, but I personally couldn't really find anything significant about it. But whenever Ratna enters Ashwin's room, she always sees him in the mirror first, like in the very first scene when he's just sitting and contemplating on the bed, or whenever she's going in, she kind of gets to see him before he sees her. Was that a deliberate choice? Was there any point of significance to that? Or
I mean, I think the mirror is just there's definitely a play, of the idea of the mirror, but it's not like deliberately throughout the film, like, oh, she's all, I think the point is that she's always observing him in whatever way. Like he exists for her very large, right? I mean, her whole life revolves around him, whereas in the beginning of the film, she barely exists for him. So, even when you see him talking to his sister and she's carrying the laundry basket, we see him from her point of view, because she's always aware, like wherever she is, she's always aware of where he is, what he needs, taking care of him in a certain way. So I think that her seeing him in the mirror was just how we laid it out without her being seen, that she sees him when he's upset. But it's not like a mirror sequence, so to speak. It's just seeing things from her point of view and her being sort of invisible to him. But yeah.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay, I have to jump to the next one. Vasundhara Vedula, are you here? We have a few more minutes left, so I'm hurrying it up a bit. Vasundhara, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
And like Anushka, I'm a huge fan of Vivek Gomber.
Okay.
My husband is mildly concerned because after A Suitable Boy and Bombay Begums, I've been gawking at him throughout the last few months. But I just wanted to say Tillotama's work was fantastic. But I especially wanted to thank Rohena because some of my work revolves around workplace issues for women. And I think the amount of screen time that was devoted to Ratna's sheer labor, the little hurdles that she has to cross, like she's vegetarian, but she has to cook mutton for Ashwin. It was incredible just watching that kind of, play out. And I think it was an incredible movie. Thank you so much for making it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. But can you tell us in what you do? Like what?
Oh, I work on prevention of sexual harassment at the workplace and on the impact of domestic violence on transport workers in Maharashtra. Some of that, there's this UK organization called ITF. I do research and some design for them. Yeah. So I was obviously watching the movie as I watch a lot of movies from that lens.
Right.
It also reminded me of one of the 4 short films that Zoya Akhtar made in, I think, Last Stories. Also a movie about this sort of dynamic, I think Mr. Jha was referring to. And it is exploitative in that plot. And I again noticed the same thing in that movie too. There's a lot of screen time devoted to just showing everything that a maid does. And especially because the pandemic has forced so many women out of the formal labor force. And so much of caregiving work at home that women do goes completely unnoticed. I love it when movies show women just like slogging every day of their lives for men who don't even notice them. Yeah, it's just incredible. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
So you design like posh guidelines. I lost your face, but
yeah, it's I can see. Yeah.
So I have worked with a women's rights lawyer in the past. I have just started taking workshops for formal workplaces for them to put their policy in place. So I am studying law and I can draft a workplace harassment policy if you're interested. Yeah. Yeah. Great film. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, we have to go to the next one. Ankita Singh, are you here? Ankita, are you here?
Hello. Yeah. Hi.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi. So I really love the work. So my question is in terms of Ashwin's character that you have built through him coming from a elite upper class background. I recognize that Ratna is very well aware of the fact of the caste dynamics that bring in, and she is hesitant, or she is not really, at first she is hesitant to pursue whatever form the relationship or whatever would happen with the relationship as the owner and her as a worker in the home would take place. But I just felt that like Ashwin's character that was built through who was unaware or ignorant of the fact of the caste dynamics that bring in to such a relationship as that occurred later in the movie. was kind of a trope to give into him understanding her much better. Do I make sense? Sorry. Whereas Ratna felt more, aware of the whole dynamics that exist between the relationship. And second, it's just an observation. Secondly, the observation, I mean, the way you have built out the whole journey of, how widows are actually seen through the Indian society, how while when she actually travels back to her home, she has to take out her bangles and everything, and she has to curb out her desires. And in general, as a woman's desire portraying in the movie, it's just amazing, and it's just lovely how you have portrayed it, and from a background that is so called, that is not respectable in the Indian society.
I'll just respond to the first point about the fact that he doesn't understand the dynamics. I think we understand limitations when we come up against them. And I think very often people don't realize what the world is like for someone else. When you have these conversations around white privilege and you have, white men saying, what, it's because you don't really understand the advantages that you have, or the limitations that other people have. So I think that it's natural to me, in my mind, for her to be aware of the way that her life is circumscribed, and for him to be less aware of it because he's never been kicked out of a 5-star hotel or a boutique in his life, nor would he be, whereas she's acutely aware of where she's allowed, how far she's allowed to go. So I don't know if that addresses it in some way, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, we are right at the end. We have only 5 minutes, so I'm going to just be like 2 more questions we have time for. Saurabh Udhani, are you here? Saurabh, are you here?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi. Good evening. And basically, my question was that throughout most of the narrative of the Sir, I noticed that there were many, the background score largely had Indian musical instruments, usage of those kind of instruments throughout in most of the scenes, or if I can say, like in largely some of the scenes. So was if you can put any insight on that, like what's the what went behind using that specially.
Well, thank you for asking that, because the music was actually really important to me. Pierre Avia did the background music. He's a French composer, and he typically uses a lot of he uses a synthesizer a lot. He uses a lot of electronic music. He doesn't do that much live music, but I was really keen to bring in real instruments as well. And we tried several different things. I really like the flute, so I gave him a lot of references of Hari Prasad Chaurasia, but also a lot of jazz and a lot of other music, melody, gado, different things. And what happened is that he was really excited. He's like, oh, it's an Indian film, I can put in tablas and sitar and everything. But it's really difficult to find the right tone for an urban Indian film, because sitar is so distinctive that it very quickly would lead us into a completely different space. So I really appreciate the work that Pierre did, which was to really try to find the sound that felt organic to these people, which is sort of modern, but there is the flute, and we found Risha Prasanna is the flautist who actually played on the album, on the background score. So we managed to record it in Paris with him. And and I really like how organic and breathy it is at points, because there's this sort of silence, and there's this holding of breath between the two people, and somehow it just felt really right when that came together. with the flute, and also layers of computer generated music within it.
Okay, one last one. Satish Khot, are you here?
Oh, I just want to say it's available on Spotify, by the way, if you want to listen to the music.
Okay.
If you look up Pierre Avia, it's Avia.
Satish, are you here? We have 2 more minutes.
Can you unmute yourself? I don't think it's Satish. I think there's somebody else here. But can you hear me?
Yeah.
Satish, hello. Okay. Ma'am, maybe you asked the question. It was a nice one.
Okay, cool. Let me just ask that the fact that this movie could be made, aired, and received with a degree of equanimity shows that the concept of equality has entered the social consciousness. Goodbye to old feudalism and casteism. This is a comment from Satish.
Well, that's, I think, a great comment to end on. Thank you for saying that. Thank you. I mean, at least I hope it's a step. It's really amazing to have the kind of conversations that are happening around the film. That's really something I had hoped for. It seemed like it would be impossible because releasing the film in India was so challenging. But to have this happening and to have people actually talking about it and engaging so passionately with the subject it's really amazing. Thank you for that comment.
Right. So we've come right at the end of our session, and thank you everyone for being here. We've not been able to ask 2 questions, but then I did promise everybody that 7:30 is a hard stop. Thank you all 3 of you for being here, and thank you everyone who's logged in and asked all these lovely questions.
Thank you, Shubhra. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shubhra. Thank you,
Thanks,
Manu.
Shubhra.
Bye, Rohena.
Bye, Rohena.
Have a good day.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you for joining. You have to switch it off now, Tillotama.
Thanks, Shubhra.
Bye.
Bye.